Amidst the peacefulness of Sandringham, where the Queen marked her 70th year of reign, the topic of succession was looming over the monarchy. With Her Majesty's age advancing and Prince Charles' intentions for the crown under scrutiny, the laws of succession had become a delicate subject. As rumours circulated, discussions within the monarchy were renewed. The timing of the Duchess' appointment to the Order of the Garter, just 5 weeks earlier, was meticulously planned to pave the way for what was to come. However, as expected, few dared to question the Queen's wishes on such an occasion. Even the long-awaited award of the Garter to Tony Blair in the same honours list, years after his departure from Downing Street, was used to deflect media attention. Senior politicians and world leaders simply issued messages and tweets congratulating the monarch on her milestone. The palace had already made the decision not to announce the Queen's intention to attend any events. It was deemed that a pleasant surprise would be more preferable to explaining any cancellations. The memorial service for the Duke of Edinburgh on March 29 was the perfect opportunity for those who were unable to attend his small funeral service the previous year to pay their respects. Although, the Duke of Sussex had already made it known that he would not be attending due to unresolved questions about security arrangements. His absence was soon overshadowed by the prospect of a public appearance by the Duke of York, his first since agreeing to a multi-million-pound out-of-court settlement to end the sexual assault claim against him in the USA. According to insiders, royal officials, the Prince of Wales, and the Duke of Cambridge all rolled their eyes at the suggestion. The Queen, however, arrived at the Abbey in her traditional Edinburgh green, a darker shade personally chosen by the Duke. Despite their alleged safety concerns, the couple returned to Britain with their private security just over 2 weeks after skipping a service. But it wasn't for a family reunion with the Cambridges, who happened to be on holiday. No, Harry and Meghan had much more important things to do, like attending the 2022 Invictus Games in the Netherlands. While they were in Britain, the Duke and Duchess did manage to meet with Prince Charles and his wife, Camilla, but that was about it. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, on the other hand, had received a much more exciting invitation to undertake the first Jubilee tour of the Caribbean, starting in Belize. But, of course, Harry and Meghan couldn't let the Cambridges have all the fun. As palace insiders know, once a media narrative develops around a tour, it can take hold very quickly. And with the current state of affairs, there were a myriad of potential grievances that could arise from Harry and Meghan's tour. The resurgence of black identity politics in the USA, calls for Britain to pay compensation for the slave trade, and the repercussions of the Sussexes' unsubstantiated charge of royal racism the previous year meant that this tour was ripe for controversy. But, as usual, Harry and Meghan were undeterred. Crowds flocked to see the royal couple, and the Duke and Duchess happily went over to talk to large numbers of people who were pressed against a fence. However, when photos emerged of the couple shaking the hands of Jamaican children who were thrusting their arms through a mesh fence, they were painted as some sort of post-imperial apartheid. And things only got worse. When the Duke and Duchess inspected a Jamaica Defence Force parade from the same vintage Land Rover that the Queen had used on previous occasions, Republican charges of tone-deaf colonialism were amplified into a proverbial Twitter storm. Even ahead of a meeting with the Jamaican Prime Minister, officials were wondering why Andrew Holness was so keen on inviting all the local media to witness the handshake. The Cambridges and their staff could only smile politely and refrain from pointing out the obvious: that Jamaica had been as independent as Canada or Britain from the day it achieved independence in 1962, that it specifically chose the Queen as its head of state, and that it was the Jamaican government who had invited the couple to come in the first place. On February 6, 2022, the Queen quietly marked the 70th anniversary of her reign at Sandringham. But behind the scenes, there was renewed internal thinking about the monarchy's future due to the Queen's advancing years and mounting conjecture about the Prince of Wales' plans. However, few dared to question the Queen's wishes on such a momentous day. The palace had carefully planned the appointment of the Duchess to the Order of the Garter just 5 weeks earlier in the New Year's honours list to pave the way for the changes to come. The long-awaited award of the Garter to Tony Blair in the same honours list, almost 15 years after his departure from Downing Street, would also help to deflect media attention. To avoid having to explain any cancellations, the palace had decided not to announce the Queen's intention to attend any events. The memorial service for the Duke of Edinburgh on March 29 provided the long-awaited opportunity for all those who could not attend his tiny funeral service the previous year to pay their respects. Even so, the Duke of York's non-attendance was overshadowed by the prospect of a public appearance. His first since agreeing to a multi-million-pound out-of-court settlement to end a sexual assault claim against him in the USA. It was not an issue that the Duke should attend his own father's memorial service, but just days before the event, word emerged from Windsor Castle that the Duke of York had been suggesting an elevated role for himself during private teatime visits. He was proposing that he should travel from Windsor with the Queen and escort her into the Abbey himself, as she would otherwise only be accompanied by a lady-in-waiting, as she had been at the funeral, and that he was the only senior member of the family with no spouse. This suggestion was met with widespread derision and ridicule. It's worth noting that the palace had gone to great lengths to distance itself from the Duke of York, given his association with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Still, the Duke of York seemed determined to maintain his position in the royal family, despite the negative attention and controversy surrounding him. On a fateful Tuesday in September 2022, Queen Elizabeth II bid farewell to Boris Johnson and anointed Liz Truss as the 15th British Prime Minister at Balmoral Castle. But just 2 days later, a cryptic media advisory from the palace sent shockwaves through British newsrooms. The Queen's doctors were expressing concerns about Her Majesty's health. As the days went by, the news from Buckingham Palace only grew more dire. Speculation swirled about the Queen's condition, and rumours ran rampant about her successor. Finally, on September 19, 2022, Elizabeth II was laid to rest. World leaders from across the globe, including the U.S. President Joe Biden and the Emperor of Japan, descended upon Westminster Abbey for the state funeral. But amidst the solemnity and pageantry, there were whispers of intrigue and power struggles behind the scenes. As the Canadian Mounties led the funeral procession through London, the eyes of the world were fixed on the royal family. And yet, despite the enormous global attention, there was only one thing that truly mattered to Elizabeth II: the future of the monarchy. Of course, not everyone shared the late Queen's concerns. The Queen's grandson Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle had famously broken away from the royal family in a dramatic and public fashion. They had made no secret of their own ambitions for the future, and some speculated that they might even try to stake a claim to the throne. In the end, the legacy of Elizabeth II would be shaped by a select few who had been groomed for power from birth. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all my latest content. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.